We're a long way through the looking glass now, well inside the alternative reality where up is down and wrong is right, where anything goes for a self-selecting in-crowd, and if you're not in that in-crowd, then your sense of right and wrong makes you a reactionary, fascist, conspiracy theorist fit only for ridicule and cancellation. I know I'm saying some of the same things over and over, but it's only because those things are true and worth remembering and keeping, and I won't stop repeating them, because if we stop telling the truth, then the game's over. In the end, the truth is all we have, but also all we need. It's important to know we're being actively and blatantly lied to by the authorities. If you don't know as much already, know now that the authorities lie about anything and everything and always have, because it's in the nature of the personalities involved. Good liars are hard to spot, but by now we're being lied to by bad liars, which at least makes it easier to see them coming. Just as a for instance, Rishi Sunak is utterly unconvincing about everything, even when it comes to playing the part of a regular human being. If he was telling the truth, which he isn't, he still couldn't sell a life raft to a drowning man. Spotting the lies now is, as the cliché has it, like shooting fish in a barrel. Fundamentally, we're now being lied to about the right way to think, the right way to see the world, the right value judgments to make. We're being lied to about what basic morality looks like. I say we've been walked through the looking glass towards the point where we're to believe all the values we held before were wrong. I say don't believe a word of it. The metal fittings that hold the oars in place on a rowing boat are called rowlocks. What we're being told now sounds a lot like rowlocks, but it's a word I can't say at 6 p.m. We were invited to see BBC newsreader Hugh Edwards as a conventional figure. In recent days, it's been apparent that in many ways he's unconventional. But the response from the in-crowd in the aftermath of that unexpected revelation, the reply from the self-proclaimed great and good, from those that think they know best and that certainly like to tell the rest of us what to think, has been, what word to use, revealing. Frankly, it's none of your chattering class, white van driving, state-educated business, they've said in not so many words. That, in short, has been the message from above. The Sun newspaper broke the story. People all over the place paid attention, reacting out of surprise, and many started to make noises that they were unimpressed, to say the least. And then the Alistair Campbells, John Simpsons and the rest weighed in to inform us that the activities of one of their own, one of the in-crowd, were none of our concern. What's worth noticing more than anything else is how quickly and overwhelmingly we've been encouraged to disregard as utterly irrelevant the revelations themselves, and to condemn instead those who've asked questions about what exactly was going on when it came to someone who nightly trots out the state of the nation as the establishment wants us to see it. One authority figure after another has come forward in recent days with words to the effect that if there's a problem, then it rests not with them in the in-crowd, but with us out here in the general population. It comes from the same in-crowd that says, when we do it, whatever we do, it's because we're superior and sophisticated in ways you regular tax-paying, law-abiding types cannot begin to appreciate. The overweening condescension of the self-appointed in-crowd has always been there. The difference now is that they're rubbing our noses in it as part of the effort to bully us into thinking everything we think is just plain wrong. Over and over again during the years just past, those regarding themselves as our betters in every way blatantly disregarded the rules and regulations they had imposed upon the rest of us. The message was that in COVID, as in the rest of life, it was one set of rules for us and none at all for them, and you better not question it, or else. When we do it, it's because we're intellectuals who went to the right schools and universities. When we fly in private jets and take multi-car cavalcades to the climate conference, it's because nothing's going to change for us, while everything changes for you. When you heat your home with a gas boiler and drive a diesel van for your work, it's because you're downright stupid and reckless. We'll heat our homes how we like and drive what we want, while you walk to work and live colder, hungrier lives. I read politics, philosophy and economics at Oxford, they say, so when I didn't wear a mask and partied with my chums, it was altogether different than when you proles felt the need to gather at your dying dad's bedside or hold hands at his funeral. Always the message is along the lines of, pay your TV licence and get along with you if you know what's good for you. Or raise a question or two about any of the in-crowd and feel the wrath. What I'm asking is, where are we now when it comes to what most people would consider ordinary values, family values? Where are we when it comes to knowing the ways of life to stand by and to defend? Do we any longer have agreed standards of acceptable behaviour? Setting aside the drama of the past week, it's hard not to notice a bigger, more sinister trend. The all-encompassing notion we're being invited to accept is that nothing about traditional values and morals matters now. It's especially the case that nothing, that is nothing to do with the human, nothing to do with the family, nothing to do with the child, is sacrosanct anymore. That echoing message of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy turns out to mean that among everything else we're supposed to hand over is any certainty about right and wrong. Apparently we're to be happy with the idea that right is whatever the powerful say it is, as well as being happy without our freedoms, our cash, our right to home ownership, to drive our cars. We're to be happy without our opinions, far less the right to express them. We're to be happy with whatever we're given, including what to think. Having opinions about what our children are told at school is apparently the mark of a disruptive, intolerant, dissenting radical. Questioning the notion of men in drag reading fairy tales to toddlers makes us right next door to criminal. Knowing that as parents we should have the final say in what our children are taught about sex and relationships, and by whom, is apparently a mindset that comes from consuming all that misinformation on the internet. All the time the message from on high seems to be, why are you bothering about the education, the conditioning of your child, and outmoded ideas about protecting the innocence of childhood? More and more I worry about the well-being of children, about what they're being told is right, about what they're being encouraged to accept as normal everyday life. And out there in the darkened background of what we're being invited to see is the knowledge, the absolute fact indeed, that unknown and uncounted numbers of babies and children are being trafficked around the world. You might say children have always been bought and sold, and you'd be right. But now, when there's more information than ever before about the scale of the horror, anyone demanding the raising of the alarm is treated with suspicion, if not outright contempt. The team behind a movie on general release in the United States called The Sound of Freedom, about the efforts of one man to disrupt child trafficking and to rescue as many children as possible, is under attack by the in-crowd. Rather than concentrate their fire on the monstrous trade in children, bigger than the arms trade, soon to be bigger than the drugs trade, mainstream critics and pundits are more inclined to ridicule the people attending the movie as white-haired QAnon crazies. Instead of dealing head-on with the nightmare described by the movie, the preferred response has been to suggest that anyone taking the allegations seriously is no more than a crank. The Sound of Freedom has taken more than $40 million at the box office already this month. But in Rolling Stone magazine, the piece by the author seemed less interested in the content of the film and more inclined to ridicule audience members calling out "Amen" in response to uplifting moments. Are we supposed to take from that the idea that practicing Christians are more appropriate targets for attack than people buying and selling babies? In the strange new world where apparently to disregard the well-being of the child is all just more of the ethos of owning nothing and being happy, which is to say that in the threatened future, parents will have no say over their children either. In the imagined, idealised world of the future, children, and therefore the adults they might become, will be the concern not of the parents and the family, but of the state. The pervasive message that anything goes as long as it's not illegal is as corrosive as cancer. As government grows more powerful, more distant from the people, so that government feels more entitled to write yet more legislation to the detriment of those people. What might they legalise next, or at least invite us to regard as perfectly acceptable? Why, for example, is there always a push to further lower the age of consent? I say now that the scent in the wind, discernible to anyone paying attention, is the next nudge. The nudge right now is towards accepting paedophilia. Paedophilia is going mainstream. Paedophilia by any other name. Those that were once called paedophiles are now described as minor attracted persons. Always the tactic is the same. It's about a foot in the door, then a leg, then the whole body. Have you noticed the steady procession of so-called authority figures people were supposed to trust and to believe, refusing to condemn behaviour that 5 years ago would have been regarded as beyond the pale, while simultaneously refusing to say what a woman is? Here's the thing. Despite what you may have felt yourself being led to believe, right is still right, wrong is still wrong. The well-being of children, all children, must always be central to our civilisation. And don't for 1 second take your eyes off anyone trying to distract you from the truth.